roadmap. The panel will be moderated by the President of the Defense Industry Presidency of Turkey, Mr. Mustafa Murat Şeker. Welcome. Now I'd like to invite our esteemed speakers of the panel. General Manager of Roketsan, Mr. Murat İkinci. Welcome. And next speaker is the General Manager of Aselsan, Mr. Ahmet Akyol. Welcome. And the next speaker is the General Manager of Deltav, Mr. Dr. Mehmet Kahraman. I'd like to welcome you all. Now I'd like to give the floor to our esteemed panelists.
Kıymetli misafirler,
Esteemed participants and panelists, I'd like to welcome you all. I hope we'll have a panel full of fruitful discussions. We are holding this panel as part of Saha 2026 fair. I hope the fair as a whole is interesting and useful for everybody. Today we have three esteemed speakers who will discuss integrated air and missile defense systems and Turkey's roadmap. So we have experts of this topic who are in front of you. I hope you'll be able to listen to their interesting ideas about this topic. But before giving them the floor, I'd like to make an overall assessment, which will be short. I'll just actually give you a brief about the overall situation. As you know, today, the security paradigm of the world is going through a transformation. Security perceptions have been transformed, and likewise, threats are changing as well, which means that security is going beyond traditional areas. Now we are talking about space, cybersecurity, which have become part of this multi-layered approach. We have new emerging threats, emerging technologies which push us to adopt new approaches. For example, flock of drones also. Our engagement periods are very short against drones, to fight against drones. We have very short periods of time to intercept drones and other threats. This is also a challenge we need to overcome. Of course, talking about air defense, we have also derived lessons from the ongoing conflicts. Air defense is not only a military technology, but it's also part of economic sustainability now for countries. You can actually possess multiple systems with multiple layers against multiple threats, but in order to be economical and in order for your systems to be effective, now it's important to make use of artificial intelligence and also to integrate all the systems with command and control mechanisms. This is also another challenge that we need to overcome. You need to address every threat with the most appropriate source, which means that actually using the correct weapon depending on the type of the threat, by using the most economical options. Still, dome mission or vision of Turkey is based on all this evaluation. It has become a compulsory approach for Turkey. Now the perception is that the steel dome name has been recently adopted last year. But the misperception is that we have recently initiated the works. It's not correct. We have been pursuing the works to manufacture the components of the steel dome for many years. What's meant is that actually we are now realizing the project for integration. Many companies like Roketsan, Aselsan, Makina Kimya, Sage, and many other companies have produced components which have already become part of the inventory for Turkey. So what's being discussed about the steel dome today is that Actually, it's about the integration of all those components under the roof of one single project. That's what's meant by this steel dome. Recently, we can talk about multiple systems which are become part of inventory, like, for example, high altitude systems, mid-range Hisar, and also low altitude Korkut, Güz, Gökdemir, Tolga, Burç, Levent, Gökdeniz, and many other systems are already ready and mature. They have already been produced for Turkey, which means that actually the intention is now to integrate all these components using a software. That's what we mean by the steel dome. Of course, Turkey is trying to develop all this in conformity with NATO standards as well. So what we are doing is actually to develop our command and control system using local systems. Of course, all systems need to be integrated by using artificial intelligence. There are a couple of critical components at this point when it comes to integration of these components. For example, all these need to be interconnected one to the other through a link network, and also communication needs to be integrated as well. When all these need to be connected to one another in a layer. We need to talk about the space domain as well when it comes to air defense, particularly for targets that are coming from extra space. You need to have a sensor in the space. You need to detect them earlier, more quicker. We'll also be discussing about projects in this direction. And finally, cybersecurity is an indispensable part of this structure. So this is just a background information for you. Now I'd like to give the floor to our esteemed panelists. First of all, I'll give the floor to the General Manager of Roketsan, I'd like to give a brief information about the conduct of this panel. I'll address one question to our panelists and I'll give them 15 minutes each. And they'll be able to give us their answers to address this question. And finally, I'll give the floor to the participants in order for them to ask one or two questions to each panelist. Now, let me give the floor to Murat Bey, and the question I'm addressing him is as follows. Due to the ongoing wars around Turkey and conflicts, they are causing a transformation of conventional combat systems. All these changes are acting like a simulation for Turkey. We are deriving lessons from them. What kinds of lessons is Roketsan deriving from these ongoing conflicts and wars? And as an addition, when you talk about Turkey's air defense architecture, what's the importance for Turkey to develop a local mechanism for air defense? And what kind of possibilities can Turkey provide to partner and brotherly countries? And what kinds of measures is Roketsan taking in this direction? Thank you, Mustafa Bey. I'd like to greet all participants wholeheartedly. I'd like to thank you for coming here. Of course, air defense, the matter of air defense, when we consider the ongoing wars and conflicts in the region and all over the world, air defense has become one of the most important capability areas. Although air defense is an overall concept, now we have emerging multiple threats which are being diversified, and thus which means there are new technologies being developed to address multiple threats. It has become now a very complex structure. When we just look at the ongoing recent wars, the war in Syria was started as a conventional war. It was but then they started using drones, for example. Then they started using actually components that were manufactured with low cost. In Ukraine and Russian war, they used ballistic cruise missiles, but also FP-1 drones and also some munitions like Shahid and kamikaze drones have been used as well. And when it comes to the war, the conflict between Israel and Iran, it seems that it was mostly based on ballistic missiles supported by drones. Now, when we talk about air defense, what we mean actually is a whole system that can address all the threats and that can protect the whole area. We are talking about such a complex concept. And this concept should try to find a cost-effective answer against all the threats in an integrated manner. For example, when you talk about a Shahid drone or FPV drone, then if you have missiles which are much more expensive than this, then it would not be very sustainable to try to address the threats with high cost solutions. It is not sustainable. So when we talk about air defense, we talk about technology and also capacity to produce in a serial manner, economical aspects. So you need to solve the problem from all these multiple aspects. And you need to address different threats. And you would need solutions, actually, that would address these in an economical way. Roketsan is trying to do that. I'll talk about this, but before that, let me first talk about the types of threats. Why are they causing challenges for air defense systems for us? And what are the most dissuasive effects of this? Usually, low-cost munitions, drones, like FBI drones, the most important aspects of this is that they can actually cause multiple attacks and they can cause a saturation in the air defense systems, particularly when it comes to the tracking, engagement. So they use this multiplicity in order to cause a maturation. And which means there is a problem in order to get rid of all the threats in the conventional air defense systems. The most important aspects of the ballistic missiles is that they reach the target very rapid, quickly, and usually they follow an orbit in order to hit a target. And cruise missiles, for example, they fly close to the ground without being captured by the radars, and the radar engagement comes at a later stage. They are complex platforms. They can hide themselves. And also when you talk about jet aircraft and drones that come from the air, all these actually are some of the targets that need to be tackled by an air defense system. If you find yourself in a situation to address all the threats, then you need to consider economic sustainability. And this would cause a significant problem, which means that we are trying to develop an integrated structure which is capable of destroying all these threats through cost-effective solutions. So from this point of view, Steel Dome is a system which tries to integrate all this through a layered approach, a layered protective air defense architecture developed for Turkey. And this includes multiple components, of course. And what Roketsan is doing for this is to develop weaponry systems and missile and ammunition systems in this layered structure. You have already mentioned there are laser weapons, for example, and then Menger, Suhur, Levent, Hisar, A-O, Siper 1, 2, A, etc. And we'll also develop other missiles as well. What's happening here is that we are trying to develop a structure that could address all these types of threats. So we are trying to develop these technologies capable of doing that. Air defense is one of the toughest challenges for the countries now, because the capabilities of the threats are increasing rapidly and the capabilities of threats are changing rapidly, and you need to make significant investments in technologies that can address this. Some of the threats are actually evolving, moving very rapidly. Some are very stealth technologies, and there might be threats that might cause a saturation of your air defense systems. Sometimes you need to make use of multiple technologies simultaneously in order to provide your defense. Of course, air threats are hiding themselves from sensors, because in the past, in the conventional manners, fighters were intercepted at a certain point, and then our soldiers actually use these radars in order to follow them based on the rules of engagement, and they try to destroy the threats. But recently, these are changing and moving so rapidly and evolving so rapidly that it's become almost impossible to address this through a human interface, because threats find their targets just in the matter of seconds, and they trigger other mechanisms when they reach their targets. So the objective here is to actually get rid of the human components as much as possible and use artificial intelligence and to integrate all these components to make the most appropriate decisions for the most engagement type. So from this point of view, command and control structure as part of the steel dome structure, when you think about the decision-making mechanisms, then the sensors and the fusion of all this data coming from the sensors in order to reach an appropriate conclusion. This is now one of the most important technological challenge that we need to address in a comprehensive manner. An integrated sensor network, an integrated command and control structure and interceptor network need to be combined. This is the only way to find a successful air defense systems. So you need to make use of multiple technologies in a cost-effective manner. This is the obligation. For example, when you look at FPV drones, military fighters, ballistic missiles or cruise missiles, and now we have drones, all other actually intelligent smart ammunitions that have become part of this landscape. You need to have actually missiles which may be produced in a serial manner. We have witnessed this, even the strongest countries in the world. For example, even the countries of which we thought that they have infinite amounts of ammunitions, they have depleted a significant amount of their ammunition in 10 to 12 days. And in order to replace their ammunitions, they need a significant amount of time to replace these depleted stocks. Then, to answer the second question, what is the importance of using local and national technology to produce this? Because in case of a conflict, our missiles, ammunitions we use for air defense, or some of the components you use may not always be purchased from foreign countries in a short period of time, and these stocks may be depleted very quickly. But when you produce these yourself at a national level, when you have minimal dependence on foreign countries, when you have locally developed technologies, when you use missiles and components produced locally, then it's a significant and major advantage for Turkey, because you cannot pursue a sustainable air defense based on foreign supplied components. That's why one of the most important factors on which we are focusing is to develop capable missiles and missile systems produced locally. This is vital for us, because once you stock them, and if you encounter a conflict, then if you have an infrastructure which allows you to produce them quickly, it would be a significant advantage. You wouldn't have to seek approval or consent from any other country or actor to produce them. So, in order to address multiple threats in a cost-effective manner, then we need to have a comprehensive system that can do that, and we need to support them with command and control systems, artificial intelligence algorithms that supports them, to integrate them. And the most important factor is that it is important to have your own ammunitions, your own components to make them sustainable. Well, when we talk about air defense, it's not something that is completed and then you sit down. It doesn't allow you to do that, because threats are changing all the time. But if you use national technologies, local technologies, then it would make it easier for you to address emerging technologies. I believe personally future threats will come from the space, for example, which means that the biggest power of our industry in this area is the use of national technologies, to use technologies developed by the children generations of our own country. and also the fact that we are using this with local capabilities and means. If we pursue such an approach in the long term, then it would allow Turkey to address not only its own national needs, but also help other countries as well, because there are significant demands from other countries in this domain. Doing this would also allow it to make this available for our brotherly countries. Thank you for your attention.
I would like to thank Mr. Murat for his very precious explanations. He explained us how it is important to produce nationally, locally, and he gave us different perspective in front of technological threats. It is important to have our own system, and in terms of durability, sustainability as well, this is really critical to have our own production. Now I would like to give the floor to the CEO of Aselsan, Mr. Akyol, Ahmet Akyol. Mr. Akyol will have a question in two parts. I will ask him a question about the Iron Dome, why the Iron Dome is needed also in steel dome is needed in Turkey. I would like to ask this question: why this is needed? Why we need to have a steel dome in Turkey? You presented 5 different sections regarding Aselsan's work and products. And I participated to your launching event, and the philosophy that I saw there is how we can find a cost-effective solution. Could you please provide us a little more information on that topic as well? Thank you very much. First of all, this is a very nice fair. We have a lot of participants, huge participation, and it is important to show the development in Turkey. We are very proud of what Turkey is doing in our industry. We are talking about air defense. Air defense is compared to defense. Attacking is much more difficult compared to defending, compared to defense. We have things to do on the attacking part. So there is also we consider in the world that air technologies air defense technologies are quite complicated. We are investing in different components of the defense in the history of Aselsan. All we did until now serves air defense. We started through communication, radars, ammunition. So each technology that we are developing is dedicated to air defense and is serving the air defense. 2-3 years ago, in fact, as a country and as companies of Turkey, we are following very closely what is happening in the war field. We have one of the most important army of the world. Our army is active in different regions and is very successful. We are a member of different international organizations. The technology in the world and the field of war is changing, is evolving, and what is evolving is the following. Since many years, we had some planes that were a threat. Now these threats are changing. We have missiles as well, but it is possible to produce now kamikaze drones that can be produced with a low cost. We have attack helicopters, we have APA, we have drones. Drones are the technology of the last 10-15 years. We have stealth drones now. We have ballistic missiles, old technology, but now we start using hypersonic missiles or multi-head missiles. All the conventional threats are currently replaced by new threats. This is what we are identifying in the field. And right now we need to ask ourselves the following question: how we will face and defend ourselves against these threats. This is a question that we are asking ourselves, and we are studying with all of our partners by using a high-level technology. What the changing threats are changing. So the visibility of the threats are lower. There is a risk of saturation because of multiple threats coming to you simultaneously. We have small drones, and drones are used more in the proximity, and radars, sensors, and different barriers, communication, commandment can be affected by these new threats, and the defense system against this threat is the steel dome. This is why we decided to have a steel dome in our country as well. So there is an environment of multiple threats, a dynamic threat environment, living threat environment, and we need to diversify our sensors. Previously there were radars that are used. Now we have radars with different band. We have electro-optical systems. We have acoustic systems, a system based on the cyber-based universe. So we need a new infrastructure for this new steel dome. In order to fight against these threats, we also need to have a communication in that network without any delay in a completely secure way. This is an obligation. Even a small section of a second is important right now in our days. We call Turan one of our products. We unified it with National Data NIC, and we created a link within this specific architecture. The diversification of sensors also should be accompanied by a diversification of the barriers from the lower layer to the upper layer. Even ballistic missiles, different type of ballistic missiles needs different defense system. For the planes as well, we need different solutions. So there is a huge diversification. In each layer, we need to have multiple solutions. We need to have different interceptors from anti-drone, from strategies. So these systems have been put into place, planified, because we are in a very complex architecture of threats. We need to build a system, a commandment system that can face these multiple threats under the name Steel Dome. So we designed this system. Our difference from the others, from the other countries who are facing the same problems, we have an additional layer in our system. We have competence in that area in terms of identification, in terms of preventing. We use electronic warfare, so it is part of our design. We are currently working to produce in a series to have an industrial production of our products. We have also some new products that have been launched and made public during this fair. And our presidency for defense we signed the agreements, the contracts for the CIPAR network 2 and 3. In terms of electronic warfare, we are ready to produce in mass. We have Ilgar, for instance. These are very important components of our steel dome. These are systems that can follow planes when they are very far away, and it makes completely impossible for these planes to attack. And also these are systems that can jeopardize the communication between these planes. We are ready to produce them in mass, so we are very proud of it. The anti-drone layer is very important. We launched here 4 new products. What we are trying to do is to face the attack of multiple drones. We want to develop an arm using radar and optical technologies. We are now at the production level on multiple drones. This is the most effective solution. We have the laser version as well. We have the optimized version of the laser. In the city centers and critical centers, it is a very effective solution. Gökalp is a totally new product. It is possible to destroy witness drones, but this is not a full solution. We have radar and optical properties as well that makes this new product very efficient. We have also a defense system, automatic system. We have Korkut, intelligent ammunition system. So it means that we have 5 different technologies that we can use under our steel dome. We have a soft skill solution, İhtar. İhtar was also shown and displayed in this fair. Our products are now launched, and we are trying to accelerate the production of these products. We made an inventory of the steel dome. We are producing this year. We are focusing on the production, and we are trying to add new talents. We have Oğuzbey, the biggest air defense complex premises, and this complex will start working during the second half of 2026. We will first of all start to protect our own country, and we will then work to make secure our neighbors. Today, with our radars, with our air defense systems, we have active systems in 8-9 different countries. We will enhance our international activities. I hope that the peace will prevail in the world, and we will be the guarants of this peace environment through our production. Thank you very much to Mr. Ahmed for his contribution. What we understand from what he said in a summary is that we have this war between Russia and Ukraine. This is asymmetrical war, and we focused on this asymmetrical war. However, the latest war between United States, Israel, and Iran showed us this is a multi-layered hybrid war. We cannot focus on one single region. We need to focus on different aspects. We are trying to resolve the problems of FPA, but on the same time, you need to think about how we can prevent hypersonic missiles. So we need to think about the entire spectrum. Ahmet Bey, Mr. Ahmet, shared with us what Aselsan is doing in terms of steel dome. Now I would like to give the floor the General Manager of Deltav, Mr. Mehmet Kahraman. You have the vision of providing more agile products. We already talked about that topic in the threat part. We have changing threats. We are using AI. There are different traits having autonomous designs and mechanism. In terms of the defense, air defense structure, what are the technologies that you are developing and bringing to this sector? And regarding the war that we have around us, what are the lessons that you are taking from these wars? What are the important breaking points in these wars? Distinguished participants, I'm very happy to be with you in that fair to share my opinions with you. As our moderator asked these questions, I would like to take a couple of minutes to say a couple of words. When we are looking to the conflicts around us, we can see that the threats are directed right now to strategical assets, and air defense becomes more and more important, and the attackers are not using one single method of attack, but they are using a package, a set of attacks. They are using planes, drones, missiles, ballistic missiles, and also hypersonic missiles that can maneuver. So there is a large spectrum of threats. It is not possible to prevent these attacks through one single defense system. It creates an economical asymmetry. There is an imbalance in terms of the economics of this equation. So we need a multi-layer air defense system. And at the end of the day, these different layers should be able to take the right decision in the face of different threats. We believe that economically this is the most logical solution. We are one of the single countries in the world that can develop this steel dome concept with a layered air defense system. We have also a decision-making mechanism. We have sensors. In a very short period of time, all these systems can work together, take a decision, and defend the country against the attacks. So we are developing these systems every day. We have SIPER 1, SIPER 2. They are in the inventory. We will have SIPER 3, SIPER A, and some defense system exo-atmospheric. So we start signing our contracts, and we started to work on these areas. For us, what Deltav can do, very shortly, I would like to tell you about Deltav. This is a quite young company. 8 years ago we've been founded. Deltav use hybrid engine technologies. This is a leader company in that area. We have this leadership position because we are not using this technology only in the cyber area, but also in air defense systems. We have the capacity to produce these products under the coordination of our presidency. We continue to develop our project to defend our country. Deltav is a cyber company as well. We are producing different impact system in the cyber area, but also we are developing products and systems that can maneuver in the cyber space, in the space. So these systems that will have the implication of the cyber space needs new technologies. We have test platforms. We also started for the first time in Turkey ramjet that was fired from the ground. This is an innovative company, and as Tildom is very critical, we are collaborating with bigger companies as solution partners. So we want to use the technologies of these companies in the future versions of SIPER. It's not enough to have this air defense system. This is what we observe in Ukraine. Defense systems and the union of sensor systems should be completed by the engaging and attacking systems. Therefore, we can say that we have a protection, but we need to also have the arm to attack the enemy. We have surgically sensitive systems, and through this surgical sensitive systems, we can contribute enormously to the defense of the country. In our country, we have engine technologies developed by Roketsan, but this is a very big world, and we have small examples of these engines, and these engines can be used in air defense system. And for the missiles, we are progressing in that area step by step. As such, especially SPER-A and SPER-exoatmospherical, we will develop reaction control systems as Delta. We believe that we can produce these systems and we can be a solution partner in that area. Currently, we have more than 500 engine induction as Delta. In summary, Ukraine, Russia, Iran, Israel, when we are looking to these conflicts, we can observe very clearly the asymmetrical situation. And what we see is that the air defense doctrine was based on a statical place, but now this is much more flexible, much more functioning in a network fashion, and the defense and attack is handled altogether simultaneously. It is also an attempt to attack the attack systems of the enemies. However, this is a difficult question. The most difficult thing is the defense. In March 2023, in Ukraine, the missile, ballistic missile Iskander was used against the Patriots. Somewhere 2023, 70–80% of these missiles have been stopped. But Russians did not stop, and these missiles started to maneuver in order to overcome the algorithm of the air defense. 6% of attack, successful attack. What this number tells us? The number tells us that the defense is very difficult, and if we want to have effective defense, we need to attack in the same time, and we need to fight against the air defense system. Another thing that is very critical is the following. The Kingzal of Russia, as you know, they are using plane to launch these missiles. The speed is 10, 12 mAh. And in May 2023, it was a very surprising example. There was the battery of a Patriot was completely destroyed with a Kinzhal missile. There is a set. There is a package, so they are first sending the low-cost products, and by sending these low-cost products, they managed to identify the location of the radars, and they will start attacking the radars, and at the end of the day, the entire battery will be destroyed. So you keep busy the enemy, you use just a missile of 10 million, and you will destroy through this action much more expensive battery. When we look at the situation of Iran, we can see that Iran is using the same tactic. They are using low-cost missiles or drones, low-cost drones, and then they will use the missiles after. At the terminal phase or at the mid-course, if we can maneuver, then we can prevent these drones. So we see that in new generation missiles like Fettah, Hürrem Shah, they cannot be prevented. They will reach their target in a hypersonic fashion. In terms of doctrine change, I can say that the defense is not enough in itself. We need to have an active prevention and also an active attacking system. We need to have an active attacking system. So the system should be much more complicated. We have to, this is mandatory to have this complicated system. As Deltav, both at high altitude, we can develop systems. We are already doing it for the cyberspace. We have the exoatmospheric version on which we would like to work. And I think that this change of the doctrine is very important. So we need to have both the defense and the attack simultaneously. And I would like to thank you for your attention. The war is not something that we want to have, but also we need to take lessons from the war that we observe around us. Through these lessons, we develop our doctrines, our scenarios to protect our country. We are also, as the sector, defense sector, we are making our plannings, we are developing new products. And Mr. Mehmet, he gave us a summary of what is going on and what is changing in the field, and he told us that we need to have different products, complex systems, because we are facing complex threats. We need to have different, a diversified set of defense systems. I would like to thank you all the panelists for their contribution. And now, if you have any question, we can take one or two questions and complete our panel. Do you want to ask a question? If yes, I can give you the floor. I would like to ask a question to all the panelists. Do you believe that you can benefit sufficiently from the academia, from academy world? GPS systems or other systems are developing very fastly. Our general directors talked about the innovation. It's not only through the work of the companies we can catch these innovations. Do you have sufficient support from the academia? Maybe all of our general directors can reply to that question shortly.
Camiayla çok iyi ilişki.
We have very close relations with the university circles. And also, we are trying to support programs that combine universities and industries. But we need to increase this level. Turkey needs more university and industry cooperations. We have been working with the university circles for the long period of time. But we need to ensure that the know-how that's accumulated among university circles become transferred to industry, to us, more rapidly. So Aselsan has laboratories in 4 different areas and 7 universities. Aselsan, TOP, İTÜ, Hacettepe universities have become part of this. What we need is that actually to, well, actually we are trying to, ensure that our employees also work in these laboratories that are part of the universities. So there are students there, there are professors there, and they are working together in order to find solutions to the problems that are detected by Aselsan. And this model aims to advance this cooperation and also tries to ensure know-how, tries to actually shorten the cycle for integrating know-how to technology development. But I'd like to underline this point. This is a very intense effort, and of course it will not come to an end. We hope that it will become quicker day by day. We are making an active use of that. And I believe that Dr. Mehmet will provide an appropriate answer to this question because he's an academician himself. Well, Deltav Space Technologies, this company, is based on innovations. And in terms of the human resources, most of the human resources, actually almost all of the managers of the company are coming from university circles, and they are very closely integrated to university circles. Actually, behind the innovations that take a short time, it is thanks to our human resources that can combine science, technology, and company resources. Most of our human resources already have a doctorate degree, but in addition to that, we pay great attention, place emphasis on academic works. This being the case, we are always supporting the university-led efforts, researchers. We support our company employees to get degrees, master's and doctorate degrees. For example, when we have, employees recruited from İTÜ, then we try to ensure that they learn cryogenic technologies. Then we send them to other centers, universities abroad, and they come back to the company. And well, our company already combines university know-how with the industry. We can take one more question and then bring our panel to a conclusion. Hello. I have a question for Mr. Murat Ekinci. You said that you guess that the biggest threat from now on will come from the space. Why do you believe that future threats, the most important future threats, will come from the space? And what will be the turning point and fracture? For example, will it be based on the quantum technology? Well, the current threats, we have already talked about them. There are diverse threats right now. And the biggest challenge against the air defense systems is those threats that are difficult to detect, that move quickly, and that reach the targets very quickly. I think these will be the threats that will be the most important challenges for air defense systems. Space technologies are evolving very rapidly. and attacks coming from the space. What we mean from the space, it might be coming from systems installed in the space, or it might be systems installed on the ground but connected to the space. I believe this will be quite important for short and middle term. We need to develop technologies about this, and all these need to be disabled. Actually, we need to develop technologies that disable the threats in the exo-atmospheric area. And one of the biggest challenges for us, for the air defense systems, I think will be this kind of threats in the future. Thank you. With this last question, we bring our panel to a conclusion. We discussed the air and missile defense systems and architecture for Turkey. We have discussed what we have done so far and what we plan to do in the future, what kind of threats we will face. I'd like to thank all the participants for listening to our panel patiently, and I'd like to thank our esteemed panelists as well. I wish you a useful rest of the fair. Thank you.
Değerli moderatörümüze ve
I'd like to thank our moderators and esteemed speakers. Now we would like to present them a token of appreciation, and I'd like to invite the Vice Secretary General of South Istanbul Industrial Cluster, who would present them the token of appreciation. Then we'll have a family photo taken.